British Museum called Syriac architecture. It is the astronomical science of the Egyptians. Put me a good old temple up here on the wall. It's the astronomical science of the Egyptians, or the Hemmites. Put me a good temple on the wall. The Temple of Denver, which is one of the most sacred ones. Then we're going to get into Edfu. Temple of Denver, built to the star series. Since we're talking about all of the temples were built to the star series. The astronomical science of the Egyptians, the most conspicuous solar system near our own, represented in the heavens by the brilliant star Sirius, was of supreme interest. The cycles of the innermost importance were determined by it, and it entered into the highest mysteries of the Egyptian initiation. Surely logical to assume that the Egyptian Menethos, the Syriac land, was Syria. Menethos. Now, where you get your, when you deal, let's deal with this right quick. Philadelphia is the second, which was the Greek Ptolemy. Asked Menethos, the high priest Menethos, to record the history of Egypt. He said there was 500 pharaohs in the dynastic, 800 in the pre-dynastic. 500 represents 3,000 years and 800 represents 5,000 years. He said roughly close to 10,000 years, give or take. They said, who used to rule before then? He said that's when the gods used to rule. Well, who were the gods? That was black people before they fell into the actual third dimension, and all your stuff shut down. So the attainment of Sirius was to get you back to Godhood, based on the mystery system, right? Now, this is the recording thing where Menethos clearly states that that's when the gods used to rule. He was talking about his own black people. An Egyptian sage told Solon, which was a Greek. He told him that the initiates had to get used to the idea that they worshiped the gods about, let's say, about 30 years. And then later on up into the initiation of the mystery system, they would say, guess what? The gods you used to worship, they used to walk the earth just like you. And they would have to get used to the part of this God used to walk the earth just like them. You see. And this was a supreme part of the initiation. You would have to deal with that. And that's the whole part about becoming God. So Menethos told them that 8,000, he said what? 8 to 10,000 years, and he said the gods used to rule. But Menethos, one thing in the mystery system you never did tell people your true origin or your lineage or time. That means a person can know when you came on the earth, he can dictate how long he can do. So he never told the time, so when he gave him the whole 3,000 years stuff, he was lying. He forged that. But it's in his book called Sophis, which is named after Sirius. Sophis means Sirius. And Menethos, he talks about the Syriac land. He says, from Syros or Sirius, according to the Greek translation. Mead is G.R.S. Mead, who wrote the book Flight Straight to Hermes. Hermes is the god Tahuti. This is the god Tahuti. Tahuti simply says that I did not come from Egypt. I'm beyond Kemet. I come from the Syriac land, which means the land of the deluge, of the flood, which is talking about Atlantis. But the part of Atlantis that they were in was Egypt. Egypt was Atlantis, was a part of Atlantis. It's just older than the dynastic period. Now, Mead refers to the records of Tahuti, the now records of ancient time being self-registered. This is the key now. This is what your whole temples mean in Kemet. This is the mission. The pyramids, obelisks, and temples, while in their later times nearly all monumental, were built according to types of Masonic instruments of Egyptian astronomical science and astrogeological science. The science he continues, he continues, that's me continuing, is studied more in more recent times and by Egyptians in results of research printed in a private circulation copy of them to be found in the British Museum. G.R.S. Mead states in a preface, the author writes, the astrogeological science which gives birth to the monuments in Syria, by means of which the fruits of the combination of observations, experiences of the human race, hue means color, the British word human, which means God-man, has been preserved, outliving the writers and the outliving writings, inscriptions, traditions, and nationalities. So it's dealing with something with nationality. The principal monument has imparted to them the essential property of beings, and it says beings of landmarks, of geo-chronological nature. Many of them recorded hydromathematically. What the hell that means? The knowledge in the astronomy, geography, and in the dimensions of figure of the earth, obtained in the rare speculation of ethics. There are Syriac monuments, which means that the temples, obelisks, and pyramids are Syriac monuments because their magical lines were projected in a scale of revolutions of the star Sirius in terms of the standard astrogeological cubit. Here we may read an Egyptian scholar confirming the strong Syrian influence of the evolution of the development of his land in archaic times. I have so far been unable to obtain the further information regarding the documents, but this is the person, the author of this book. But anyone with more time to spare and gather the aptitude of persistence might well meet with success. In antiquity, there were constant references to the pillars of Hermes, Tahuti, from which many ancient writers claim to have gleaned their information concerning the periodic time. Several of I have already in the chapter. This is the person in this particular book. Now, what they are saying here is this, basically, that pyramids, obelisks, and temples are all built around the star system Sirius that I just showed you. That particular star system is called Syriac architecture, based on an article that they got in the British Museum. Well, it's something that was interesting that started around 1986 in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia, because the Syriac land is Atlantis. And just so happened that Egypt was one of the capitals of it in Atlantis. The white man just gives you the island of Atlantis because he don't want to connect it with Africa in one landmass, because when he does that, connect with Africa, you would know that on this earth there was one people and one landmass, and it was all black people, and the other race came from that. So he always separates the island of Atlantis from the mainland of Atlantis, which is Africa. You see, that's the key to the whole thing. He separates the island of Atlantis that went down in the Atlantic Ocean from the mainland of Atlantis, which is Africa. But surely you know doggone well you can take South America and Africa and put them down together, and they fit like a puzzle. And it was all one landmass. And we also know that there was only one people, because wherever you go on earth, you're going to find black people who was already there. There's big old black heads built on Eastern Island. There's big old black heads in Mexico. Your Olmecs, your Aztecs. You see what I'm saying? There's black warriors on the vestas of the samurai warriors. There's black Chinese. Your black ninja, the ninja that wears black because his original mystery system was started by black Ethiopian at all. The Lubaba witches up here wear all black to try to symbolize melanin. And they wear the Horus block, the Heru's block to symbolize melanin that they don't have. You see. But the Syriac architecture comes from Atlantis, and the new Atlantis is Atlanta, Georgia, which in Atlanta, Georgia's history, they talk about Atlantis re-emerged from up under the water, as well as Haiti. And then in the mid-80s, they started building Syriac architecture. You have the step pyramid of Saqqara that I told you, built by Zosa, and also Imhotep was the architect. The step pyramid of Saqqara that's called a Peachtree 1 building, and it lights up as a step pyramid, and they got beams shooting up. You got obelisks on the CNN, the CNS bank. It's called Wachovia Bank now. And you got obelisks on the, you got a big gold obelisk and pyramids. You got pyramids on the IBM building. You see. Georgia Tech has over doggone 50-something pyramids all over Georgia Tech, as well as the football field with pyramids all over it. They have the Temple of Dendera down there. They have other temples. They got one particular thing, looks like the lighthouse of Alexandria, 2 temples standing up right beside each other. It's all based on Syriac architecture out of the British Museum. And Atlanta is the new Atlantis. Why? Because also Atlantis has a big woman holding up a bird talking about the phoenix. There's 2 phoenix in the world. One the fake and one the real. The fake phoenix is Phoenix, Arizona. Ain't nothing out there but white people. And they so racist, they don't even want to give Martin Luther King a birthday, and he was their fake. The other phoenix is the black Atlanta, the civil rights seat. It's now coming with the Black University Complex, which is the other phoenix. Which is also the new home for the Illuminati, because the old home is New York, named after York Wright, Old York, the old York Wright Masonry, who ran Washington, D.C. Whole conversation between George Washington and another concerned person saying how New York run things. He said, I know that, but they run the world. That's the home of the Illuminati. So the new thing is also Atlanta. They're trying to flock down there because you got to get out of the old city. But this whole thing is going down, and that's Syriac architecture. Now, let me go into a couple other things before you do your answer. I got a few other things I got to deal with. Now, let's deal with Akhenaten and Tel al-Amarna. Very important. Akhenaten in actuality is Moses. The life of Akhenaten is the life of Moses, and the life of Moses is the life of Aaron. But Moses was a priest of Akhenaten, and after Akhenaten disappeared, Akhenaten died or ascended, they took the work that was attributed to him and gave it to Moses. Because Moses could speak the language of the people, and Akhenaten couldn't. But it was all black Hebrews at that time. And the Egyptians and Hebrews were nothing but a group of northern Ethiopians that broke away from the government with Akhenaten. You see. So they're saying in actuality they don't know what happened to him, but now we got reports that he did live and he retreated to the Sinai Peninsula. And that's where you get Moses going up on the Sinai Mountain, because he was the father. Akhenaten was the father of monotheism, or so what he thought, because the religion was always monotheistic. In Eutychus Bud's, the last book of his life, he said, I have been mistaken, which I thought was a polytheistic religion, was a monotheistic religion all the time. All the other gods that you see were just like the 99 attributes of Allah. It represented one God and a God one. And when you put the gods together, they fit together as one puzzle, as the one God and the God one. Eutychus Bud's book, The Fetish to God in Ancient Egypt, 1935, the last year of his life. Akhenaten merely just re-emphasize the monotheism by just putting one particular symbol of the god. Right here is a fake particular picture of Nefertiti. The Berlin bust that was found on an artist floor in Berlin, and we know that that's a straight up lie. Now, they said that she was a mulatto, but we got pictures of this particular sister. Number one, you know that this is the head of Tutankhamun. No, this is the head of one of his daughters. And as you can see, that particular head on her is that particular skull. It's only found in black people. Check. Now, I want to show you something. Number one, this is a lid, very key, because you don't see these particular pictures. But this is a book called King of Egypt by Cyril Aldrin. And And this particular book, you're going to find out in actuality Serial Aldrich was playing tricks on his white counterparts. He would put the blackest pictures he could find. King of Egypt by Serial, Akhenaten, King of Egypt by Serial Aldrich. Here's another black picture of a black woman with big lips, and surely you can look at you. If you focus in on that, it ain't nothing but a sister. With dreads or braids. Nothing but a sister. That's no mistake. And he was good at doing that. Here's the real picture of Nefertiti. If you focus in on that particular picture of Nefertiti, and you can surely see, sitting beside her husband Akhenaten and one of the daughters, you can surely see that that is a black woman. And that don't have nothing, that has nothing to do with that fake Berlin bust that I just first showed you. That fake Berlin bust. Now, to let you know that Nefertiti was also a black woman, I want to show you something else. This is a picture of the, even though the head is gone, I'm going to show you a picture of the body of Nefertiti. And surely, if you look at this particular picture, you will know that that is nothing but a black woman. Look at them glorious thighs, and look at that booty back there. Surely, the only thing that's got this kind of booty is a sister. And them kind of thighs. Akhenaten, yes, she was fine. Akhenaten, excuse me, wife, Nefertiti, yes, she was fine. And hold that booty there. Look at that booty. Look at them thighs. It wasn't until Akhenaten time that you had the most explicit type of art in ancient Kemet. And that was one of the pictures, even though the head is gone, surely. You look at that, you know that this is something that transcends time, because if you look at it long enough, you can say, damn, you might get one up on it. Now, I'll show you another picture. If you look at this picture real close, you're going to find out it is a picture of Nefertiti sitting on Akhenaten's lap. So Akhenaten was doing the pimp daddy thing where he put the woman on his lap. Never before in Egypt, you saw him sitting side by side, but in this particular broke-off picture, he just threw her up on his lap. Because that really know right there the origin of how the black man serenades his woman. The sheer apex of black sensuality is the black man and the black woman. So these are some pictures also too. We want to deal with also too. Now, at this particular time, we want to get into the teachings, and we want to get into the science of earth, wind, and fire, which surely reintroduce as what we can say also too. Let me get this particular picture. One of the best pictures, this is the Sphinx with the head blown off, with the nose blown off. There's another picture here that you'll always see. It's this particular picture, and I think it's also in Diop's book, African Art of the Myth of Reality. You will see this particular picture with the Sphinx, and definitely you can see it's supposed to have been when the actual nose was still on it. It's a debatable picture for some people, but here's a famous picture of the Sphinx. You can blow up, hone in on this one. Supposedly with the nose still on it. But if you look at the lips, you can swear out it's a black person. Some say a black woman, some say a black man. But it's of both sex that you're dealing with at this particular time. So this is the science that's also going on. Now, let's deal with some things that I got from the spiritual realm based on a certain amount of channeling, because what we do is we not only deal with getting, when the actual scholarship breaks down and we want to find out a higher scholarship, we get things from channels also too. Now, based on this particular channel, was coming from two sisters, one by the name of Shakura out of Coney Island, and one by the name of Shakura out of Coney Island, and also one by the name of Sister Tarsili out of Atlanta, Georgia. And at that particular time, I asked the question of the spiritual origins of a particular person. And that particular person was an Egyptian priest of Ptah by the name of Ptah, who Hetepsah. He was a priest of Ptah. Ptah, who Hetepsah was a priest of Ptah. It rose himself to Christhood, but what he did was that particular person decided to come back, reincarnate and come back to be in a later date to help people to get past the 70s through the art of music when the 60s revolution broke down. That particular priest of Ptah is none other than Maurice White of Earth, Wind, and Fire, as we've been showing different pictures. One of the pictures is the 1977 version. The first one where he really started dealing with was the name Earth, Wind, and Fire right there is the elements of the universe. It's a name